All right, we're going to be adding rational expressions today. And in this case, we're going to be looking at rational expressions that do not have common denominators. And of course, in order to add any fraction, the first thing we really need to do, number one, is find a common denominator. Okay, and when we find that common denominator, it's actually really easy. We just have to focus in on them and find out what multiplies by each other in order to get the exact same value. Now, how does that make sense? I know that 4 times 5 equals to 20, and I know that 4 and 5 will both divide into 20. So in order to do that, I just recognize, hey, all I gotta do is multiply this by 5. And what I do to one side, I'm going to do, or in the denominator, I'm going to do the numerator. And then I just say, okay, well, this needs a 4. And what I do to the denominator, I'm going to do to the numerator, okay? And at this point, you should recognize 5 times 4 is simply 20. Now, like in previous videos where we've done common denominators, we just simply work with the numerator at this point. And we need to circle the whole entire thing, including that addition sign in there. And I just simply write 5 pi plus 4 over the square root of 2. Now, we go to Desmos. I love using Desmos. Y'all know this for a fact. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type that in just to make sure that my answer is correct, because it's a really big bummer whenever you do all that work and you get something wrong. Okay, so there is our original question, and then I'm going to take and put in my answer. So 5 pi plus 4 times the square root of 2, all divided by 20. And if I get the same answer, we are in good shape. And we do, okay? There's not really much I can do with this one because we've got pi's and we have irrational values that are going into this. So let's go off to the next one. So let's find that common denominator, number 6. We're going to have it a little bit more complicated. And it says a over m plus b over 2m minus c over m. Okay, and this one's not that hard because all it's saying is, hey, we need to find a common denominator. And if we look at it, we'll notice that all of them already have an m. So they all have that in common. The one thing they don't have in common is this 2. So all I have to do is give each fraction a 2 on the denominator and the numerator. So I just simply say, hey, this needs a 2, that needs a 2, because what you do to the bottom, you do to the top to keep it equivalent. And then I come over here, this needs a 2, and that needs a 2. Okay, now you'll notice all of them have a 2m in the denominator, and I can just simply put this information in there. I could say 2a following out plus b minus 2c. Now, can I factor and simplify in this case? No. And the reason why is that they don't all have a 2, and they're not all divisible by a 2, and they don't have common terms of a's, b's, c's, and m's. They're all different from each other. Tough one about these, they're hard to check in Desmos. Okay, let's go off to the third one, and we get a little bit more complicated. Okay, and we can check this one in Desmos, and we will check this one in Desmos, okay? So it says that we have 4 over 3x minus 3 over 5x squared, okay? And this goes back to what we just did with the m's. We recognize, okay, well, 3 times 5, how can we make that a common denominator? Well, I know that 3 and 5 divide into 15. I could also just say, hey, this has got a 5, and so this needs a 5. This has got a 3, so this needs a 3. And remember, what you do to the bottom, you do to the top. Now, the one thing that we really have to focus on now is that this x. If I say x, that's just one simple x. But if I say x squared, that is 2 x's. That's x times x, right? That means this side has 2 x's. This one only has 1 x there. So I'm going to multiply this one by another x, okay? Once we've got that, okay, we actually have our common denominator. Yay, it makes life so much easier now that we got a common denominator, because that's what's got to happen. And that common denominator is 15x squared. Okay, so 15x squared. And then what I do is I just circle the whole entire numerator, including that subtraction there, and I just put it into the numerator. So 5 times 4 is 20x minus 3 times 3, which is 9. Okay, now I do want to check my work because I'd hate to make any mistake on this. Okay, so I'm going to type 4 divided by 3x minus 3 divided by 5x squared. Okay, there's my graph. It's pretty sweet looking, especially with that little right-hand side there. And then I'm going to type in the next part, which is 20x minus 9. Z's and divide, and I'm going to put 15x squared. Notice they're equivalent to each other because one overlaps the other one. When we come back to this statement over here, you're also going to notice they have no common factors between the numerator and the denominator. Nothing is factorable because the 9 doesn't have an x on it. And that means that we are actually done with this problem. Make sure you screen snip and throw those onto our assignment today.